This is Jeremy Martin, and I'm delighted to be here with Tom Reichert, who's the CEO of Environmental Resources Management, better known as ERM. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Jeremy. It's so great to be with you.
Well, we're very pleased to have you here, and this is one of our La Jolla Conference Curtain Raiser interview videos. And people who are listening will be shocked to know that we're going to talk about sustainability with Tom Reichert, the CEO of ERM. And just let me briefly introduce you, Tom, before we get into the topics at hand here and exactly where and how ERM is contributing to the content at this year's La Jolla Conference. For those of you who may not know Tom Reichert, he joined ERM as CEO in February of this year after a long career at another consulting firm in the space. Over 25 years of background and experience dedicated to issues of climate and sustainability. So he knows of which he speaks on these topics. And so, well, congratulations on taking over at ERM. It's a wonderful firm. We have such a long-standing partnership, particularly on the La Jolla Conference. Thanks for your support.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Well, look, let's get right into it. And I know this term I'm going to use in my very first question, sometimes more recently has become a one that has a lot of debate around it. But let's use it, and I'll get your thoughts on how ERM and you now with your strategic vision for the company, how you and the firm define ESG.
Yes, Jeremy, it's a pleasure to be here. And at ERM, it's been a real revelation, to be with this, fantastic firm and this fantastic team. So I'm glad we can team together at this conference. At ERM, we define sustainability as a commitment to supporting social and economic development, a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And we really define it in three ways. First, and by far the most impact, is through our consulting work. We deliver more than 20,000 projects a year for the biggest brands in the world. 90 of the Fortune 100 are our clients. Second, we drive our own sustainability performance. As ERM, we are committed to net zero by 2025, with science-based targets aligned to 1.5 degrees, and we've got a whole set of other commitments that our staff is engaged on and we as a company. And then thirdly, we collaborate with whether there is partnerships on the commercial side, technically, or around shaping the overall agendas, like the work that we're doing with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Jeremy, we all face such big challenges. We really need to team together to tackle them. Well,
okay, thank you very much. What really got my attention, as I probably from my reaction, was your company's commitment to net zero in 2025. Let's come back to that perhaps at the very end, but I wanted to move on because I think you also talked about some issues that I would say perhaps we could look at as ESG or sustainability as a driver of growth. And so talk a little bit about that and how that influences projects in development. Obviously, the net zero element can be part of that as well, right?
Yes, Jeremy, I think it's a very important part. Surely we have a lot of compliance and disclosure conversations around the sustainability agenda, but increasingly we see our clients to drive growth. And how do they do that? The first part is really the work on how to succeed in a low carbon economy. The navigation of the transition to a lower carbon future is really impacting all parts of the business, and it requires deep technical and commercial solutions. And with that, it opens up new levers of competition and new opportunities. The other part is the financial impact and the interest of the financial industry in the sustainability agenda of organizations. The cost of capital is becoming intrinsically linked to a business's sustainability performance and its disclosures. We see an increasing engagement of banks, LPs, investors in the individual company's agenda and how they reward, assess, and also finance companies.
No, it's a great point. I mean, we've seen with the SEC regulations, as you note, but yeah, please. Sorry, I may have interrupted you. Go on.
Yeah. No. Like, I think it is a very important, but I do think this is one of the big shifts, and many of you will know, KKR has taken a major investment, the majority investment in ERM, to help grow ERM, but also to change the KKR platform and investment thinking, which comes exactly to the point, Jeremy.
There are two no, thanks for flagging that. I think that transaction was last year, right? The KKR. Yeah,
yes, that's right. Transaction closed in October. That is totally right.
It's an important. So as you know, and your team who've joined us for so many years, the La Jolla Conference is about Latin America. It's about this hemisphere's energy outlook, developments, investment scenarios. Let's take all of what we've talked about so far and bundle it up together and have you address from ERM's vantage and your CEO perch, the enablers in Latin America for financing the energy transition, because you talked about the cost of capital and some of the elements that are baked in. So let's talk about what are some of the other enablers and how do you finance sustainable and energy transition in the region?
The energy transition, Jeremy, is imperative for Latin America. And Latin America is such an important part of the world and of the growth of the future. But at the same time, the region is vulnerable to climate disasters. And as the world shifts to a more low carbon world, it will impact the fossil fuel exports that many countries in the region currently rely on.
Right.
So when we think about enabling the transition, we have to remember that Latin America is a very diverse region and countries are at very different stages of their development. For instance, Brazil is 50% renewable energy mix, and Mexico, Argentina is more around 10. So you're dealing with very different challenges in the market regarding technology, regulation, capital deployment. However, we think that Latin America has all the conditions to mitigate emissions and lead that transition. There's a lot of land that can be cultivated, there's solar and wind exposure, and there's a lot of opportunity for natural carbon sequestration through rainforests. So there will be many opportunities. There'll be also many opportunities through other income sources, biofuels, carbon offsets. It will, though, mean a very important collaboration between the private and the public sectors. And we start seeing that. I spoke about the renewable agenda in Brazil, very active moves with a good amount of government support. So this collaboration in the ecosystem that I spoke about before, will be very important also for the success of Latin America.
I appreciate you also highlighting the divergence or the diversity, I should say, of the region, because we do talk broad brush and we use Latin America, the Caribbean, or these kinds of overgeneralizations for need of sort of like ESG, right? The need to have shorthand. But you're absolutely right. There's such distinctions between Brazil and Mexico and in Chile, for example, and where they are today, and both in terms of resource profile, but also political, economic development. So thanks for highlighting that. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I think it would be super interesting to wrap up, Tom, if you could indeed speak to your net zero 2025 commitment and how you as the company are operationalizing that, because that could be very insightful for our attendees and listeners.
Yes, very happy to, Jimmy. It's a very important part for us, and we wanted to be at the forefront of the timeframes as well within our industry and across industries, because I really deeply believe as a consultant, you can only be as good as you live your own life, around these discussions. Now, what we've done is we set the goal, very early on, and we're doing some of the top-down decisions. A lot of this has to do for us with, sourcing renewable energy in our office environment. Right. It has to do with how much internal travel we do or won't be doing going forward. But we have also engaged really broadly across the ERM communities, because we felt, and we've gotten clearly the feedback from our staff, that they want to engage on that. And so we have a lot of local office initiatives, how to reduce use of plastic or avoid any use of plastic in our office environment, what we can do better, in everything that everybody does every day. And that's probably one of my biggest learnings. Very often we find that in companies, the senior leadership tries to solve for how this transition gets done. Engaging the whole organization is very beneficial. Our staff wants to be engaged, and their employees today, but when they go home, they're also consumers and can keep on spreading this. We have a big change management exercise in front of us, Jeremy, and we need to engage everybody to help us do it.
And your footprint is global, right? And how many offices and employees is this going to be needing to get all of that effort from?
ERM is very global. We have 7,000 people. We're growing by about 1,000 people net every year. We have about 150 offices. So we deal with the complexities that many of our global clients deal with.
Wonderful. We'll leave it there. This has been a wonderful curtain raiser interview with Tom Reichert, the CEO of Environmental Resources Management. Join us obviously in person on September 28th and 29th, even with some travel, and we'll put that in parentheses, here in La Jolla for these discussions, more on these discussions. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully here in person, but we look forward to your Latin America team joining us. Thanks again for your continued support, and ERM has been a wonderful partner. Thanks, Tom, for your time.
Jeremy, thank you. We love teaming with you, and I wish you all the best for a wonderful and very successful conference.
Thanks so much.